there's nothing like cracking that cellophane and pulling that record out. It just smells great.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Non-stop hardcore energy.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Unlike any other.
With your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Man, this stuff rocks.
What's up, everybody? It's Keefy from GhostCultMag.com, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Hour, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, aka the Bodfather, and as always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today I want to welcome Mr. Keith. He's the editor of Ghost Cult Magazine, and we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff, but Ghost Cult Magazine have been in business for 10 years, and 2022, this October, is their anniversary. And you want to catch some of your favorite interviews and reviews of metal, rock, doom, indie, prog on their website, interview videos, and other shows on their YouTube, their podcasts, and their Instagram page. Also, they are part of the Blastbeat network, which features Metal Sucks, Metal Injection, Metal Insider, Gear Gods, Rock Feed, etc. And they have some cool affiliate deals out there too. So, Keith, welcome to the podcast finally, my dude.
Thanks for having me, man. It is so much fun to be here today, and as a fan, just shout out to you and your fans. I appreciate what you do.
I appreciate that, man. That makes my day. It makes me smile.
Word.
Oh, it's hard work what we do, man. And people are like, "Hey, I'd love to do what you do." No, you don't, unless you truly love to do what we do. This is the fun part. But after this, that's when the work comes in.
Yeah, nobody's first of all, nobody's a metal fan passively. I don't think there's anybody that's like, I'm casually into metal. No, people are like, Slayer, I'm really into metal. Like, nobody's sort of into metal. Nobody's in this. And it's the same thing with what we do. Let's call it music journalism for short. And we throw an umbrella over everything, content, videos, whatever it is we do. It is exhausting. It is a lot of work. I luckily fell into a very good situation after already working in music journalism for a while, and I fell into fell into this, and we fell into each other, and I have a lot of amazing people around the world that help me do what I do, and I could not shine without them helping me shine, and they shine as well. So I feel really lucky. We're going to hit 10 years in October. It's kind of mind-blowing to me that I'm doing this for 10 years. It's not like a band. It's hard to keep this thing going, keep that energy going strong for all this time.
And kudos to you for doing that, because I know it's very frustrating because you get more no's than you do yes. So especially for me, and it's just me doing this. So you got other people helping. I just got me editing and all this shit. So, one day you're my look to, man. That's what I want to do. So,
well, thank you. That's really kind of you. And there are ebbs and flows and ups and downs. And just like everybody else, we all have personal stuff, and things get in the way. Life gets in the way. And obviously, the last couple of years have been get in the way of the whole world with the whole year. I just interviewed a band earlier today, Limbs, a post-hardcore band from everywhere, and their new EP that's coming out is called Coma Year. I was like, perfect. That exactly describes how I felt the last 2 years, regardless of whether you're tired of talking about this or not. It has changed everything. Whether this is your expensive, passionate hobby, you make a little money at it, whether you work professionally in the business, whether you're anybody related to music, we have all suffered. Fans, bands, labels, management, merch people, bars, clubs, everything. We all have been a little ecosystem together, going up or down depending on the day. So, it's tough.
And another thing too, man, just like you, all these bands I've interviewed, they say they've got like 3 to 4 albums worth of material that's ready to go out. And I'm going, are we really going to see the light of day of this? Because we don't know what's going to happen a year or two later, because we don't know where their mindset's going to be, or they even want to put that out to be like, that don't fit us right now.
Good call. I interviewed Baroness during the original first few months of the pandemic. I talked to Gina, who I know. I love Baroness. I've followed them for a long time. It's one of the few 10 grades I have ever given in my life as an album reviewer was to Purple. This is one of my favorite records ever, one of the best records, in my opinion, ever in any kind of rock or metal adjacent world. And she said they had already written 3 albums worth of material by like June of 2021. They like within a year of that pandemic, they had already written 3 full albums worth, and they've put out like a double album before. So who knows if they're going to put out 3 full albums? Who knows if they're going to just pick the best stuff and make one album? They're doing these little club shows and tours right now. They're not doing like a full-scale tour for what, like they want to keep it very intimate, not that many people. Other bands are like, let's go right back and do a full everything. And I respect anything. And if there are bands who feel like, you know what, it's just not, worthwhile money-wise or safety-wise to go out and tour, and you want to stay home a little longer, stay home. Safety matters. Life matters, family matters much more than all this other stuff. But obviously, this is how a lot of bands make money, is touring.
And I got to see the Trinity of Terror tour with Motionless in White, Black Veil Brides, and Ice Nine Kills.
Yes.
And just going back, man, and being in that seat and just seeing those lights go out and hearing the music when the first band comes on, I mean, the chills just went up me. It's like, where have you been? It's, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, thank God I can just sit here and relax and just be myself.
I totally get that. That sounds like a killer time. I wish that tour, I don't think it's coming to my town, but I urge people, that's going to be one of the best values for your dollar of anything this year. And Ice Nine Kills is like somehow playing with Metallica and stuff now. I can't believe how big those guys are getting. I'm from the East Coast originally. I grew up in New York. I lived in Boston for 10 hard years. 10, 11 years I did New England. And Ice Nine Kills was like a little up-and-coming band that whole time.
Yeah.
And now they are like on the global stage playing in front of Metallica. That is nuts.
Wasn't they a ska band or a punk band or something like that, maybe?
They might have been like more of a gothy punk band, like an AFI. They were very inspired by AFI, similar to Motionless in White, right? Very inspired by sort of your gloomy gothy punk bands. Sort of Misfits are an influence, but obviously now they've like really dialed into this metalcore with the horror themes. Spencer's a fantastic vocalist and frontman. Yes. Such a terrific group. They're doing guest features. He's showing up on other people's records. So, the sky's the limit for them. They have tremendous management. They have I think they have Black Label Society's management, Blasco from Ozzy. So, that's, also huge.
I got to know, man, how excited are you to see the 10th anniversary of the Ghost Cult magazine coming up this October? Because, I mean, it has to be like a little whirlwind for you. Like, God, it's already 10 years that quick.
Yeah, it's wild. So I work, just to I'll give you like a little elevator pitch history of me in brief. I played in bands for a long time, rock, metal, mostly thrash. I used to be a vocalist and a bass player, and then I did a few other bands, death metal, hardcore, rap metal, where I just did backup stuff and I played bass and I yelled a lot, backup vocals. And I did that for a long time, and I was a musical prodigy. I went to the Fame High School in New York City as a little kid. I have a whole story where I sang backup to Whitney Houston once. That's a true story. As much, there goes your metal credibility. Also, right out the window. And then also one of my claim to fame is as a young adult, I saw Slayer and Frank Sinatra in the same week. So I'm old. I'm not the coolest, but I saw some of the cool bands because I'm old enough. And, I always I did journalism as my first go at college before I went back to school for business and marketing. Right now I'm a social media expert. That's what I do, and I'm not doing Ghost Cult as I'm an expert digital marketer. I've done a lot of music marketing and advising bands on music marketing and PR for money. And I always had kind of a journalism thing in me anyway. I love, Hunter Thompson, Lester Bangs, everybody's seen Almost Famous, and obviously that's a sort of a fictionalization of that guy. He also kind of famously did not like heavy metal. He thought it was dumb, but he is a brilliant writer, and he did end up coming around to heavier rock and metal later in his life. And there are other people who really hugely inspired me. I, like everybody else, read all the music mags growing up. Rip was probably my favorite beside Metal Maniacs and Metal Edge. A huge fan of Lon Friend and Rip, like I mentioned. If you want to check out some great writing on music, check out his books, Chuck Klosterman, people like that. I used to make lists of albums to send my friends, like, here's album release day, go get these. Or I would make mixtapes and mix CDs and hand them out to my friends. Here's what I'm listening to. You want to get a hand on this? And then we would go to shows and the whole thing. So it was really a lifestyle for me from a very young age. I'm also a huge fan of music that's not metal. I love great 80s pop music, and I'm very well trained on jazz and the whole history of jazz and stuff like that, which is, I mentioned, Frank Sinatra and things. So I'm a weird mutt of a lot of things. A generalist is kind of what you need to be if you want to do what we do. You have to have a little open mind, and you also know what's good and what's not good, and what's great and what's not great. So I had been working for other blogs. I had my own blog, and I was working for Blabbermouth, as you know, not working with them, but there was sort of a lot of clones of Blabbermouth at one time. And every record label kind of had their own Blabbermouth, which Blabbermouth started out as a part of Roadrunner. People don't know that or remember that because they kind of split at one point. But before they were like an independent entity, Blabbermouth.net was run off of Roadrunner's website as like a subdomain. And so they weren't necessarily favorable to Roadrunner on purpose, but they were supported by and run by the people who also ran Roadrunner. So every label tried to do one of those, and I was working at one called Metal Army America, and they were sort of a offshoot of Century Media, great label, a lot of great bands, and I was working there for a while. I ran that blog for a while, and then they went out of business, and right at the time they were starting to go under, I was courted by the people who started Ghost Cult. Ghost Cult was actually started as a real zine and then a digital magazine and website in Europe, in Holland, to cover the underground stoner, doom, death metal, avant-garde scene, which is very big there in Central and Western Europe. And there's a lot of festivals built around that. Roadburn Festival, Desert Fest, All Tomorrow's Parties, which is now defunct, as well as Incubate Festival, which is now defunct. But it was like a very big cultured scene. And they reached out to me and they were like, hey, we see you go to all these things, Maryland Death Fest, New England Metal and Hardcore Fest. We see you popping up on social media. Like, would you like to work for us in America? And I was like, not only can I work for you in America, I am an editor and I can bring a whole team of people to work for you in America. So we teamed up right at the start of Ghost Cult, and within like 6 months I was running it, and then I took it over, and it just happened that way. And kind of what happened was, as we transitioned away from a digital magazine, which was pretty successful for a while, we had the first English language interview with Ghost. We had the infamous interview with Nergal from Behemoth, where he said that all American death metal is lame and sterile and boring, and that got everybody's panties in a bunch and Jimmy's rustled.
Yeah.
And a few other things. We had a huge issue with Dream Theater, their first record without Portnoy, and a big interview with those guys, and Petrucci and Mangini, and I think there was like 120,000 downloads worldwide of that digital magazine. So this is now going back like, 2012, 2014, 2016, and then we started to kind of transition away with so much work. Again, the work is the problem. When you do good work, you're rewarded with more work. You get ambitious, you want to do more, cover more, and it becomes harder. And so we were doing a full-time magazine once a month and the website every day. It was just too much work. So I was like, let's sunset the magazine for now. Someday I would like to bring it back, like a commemorative thing. And we did 19 issues of that. And we just have been doing the website ever since the last, let's say, half the time of Ghost Cult. So the last 5 to 6 years, it's just been a website. And maybe 2017 was like the last time we tried to do a mag. And so ever since then, we've just been, like I said, like sort of just a level below your Blabbermouths, your Metal Sucks, your Metal Injections. There's a few others. Obviously, I love Decibel Magazine. There's not a lot of successful physical metal magazines anymore, so I give them a lot of respect. They still sell a lot of magazines somehow. They're just so high quality. I always admire Albert, the editor and owner, and what a great team they have there, and some of the best writers and people, artists in the world that work for them. So that's kind of where Ghost Cult is. We're hitting 10 years this year. It is a little overwhelming. We've grown a lot. We put out a lot of content. Again, as I said, I'm very lucky to have a lot of people supporting us and supporting what I do, and we're all kind of collectively trying to do this together.
So do you like having just the website out there for Ghost Cult, or would you want to have the digital magazine out there? Again, maybe.
I mean, like everything else, I also have dreams of writing a book about metal and doing a documentary about metal. And, it's time. Time is the one resource you can't make more of, which is why the last couple of years have totally sucked, where our time felt like it was taken away from us.
Yeah.
And, I will never get those 511 days back where I didn't see a concert, and I was very, very sad, Keefy. But now, I don't know, the magazine, I don't know the future of magazines. Do people still read books? Would people buy... They buy Decibel. Would they buy a bunch of other physical metal magazines? I know people are still doing metal mags. We just kept the name, obviously, like we are, in the journalistic sense, I feel like still saying we're Ghost Cult Mag or Ghost Cult Magazine, just kind of reinforces what we do and how we do it. So our news is very journalistic and just very the facts, vanilla. If you want commentary, I will give that to you in other ways, but in terms of like our news posts, they're very dry and like these are the facts, and with a little bit of sometimes needed coloring in. But I don't know, it's hard, it's a lot of work doing just what we do. We really do a phenomenal amount of YouTube content now. We have 3 to 4 videos a week, which is insane. I'm doing like daily videos on shorts and TikToks and reels. We do constant social media content. Like I said, I'm a social media expert, so that's my wheelhouse. But it's also a lot of work to put out the content. So it's all about time. I would love to someday bring the mag back, but to run it, righteously, it would be a super undertaking. And then, obviously you have to have graphic designers and things like that. So it's just, I can't do it all myself. Even if I had the skills to do it all myself, there's just not enough hours in the day.
I got to know, man, I know we both love our national bands. We love them. We love them all day long. But do you get more excited when you see up and coming indie bands, versus like the nationals who's already out there, who's already done their time? But do you get more excited for the indies?
Yeah, absolutely. I get equally excited or more because the future of some of these legendary bands are, like Judas Priest, they're not going to be around forever. Some of these, Ozzy is not going to be playing tours or making albums in 10 years, probably when he's 80. Or it's right around the corner. We're coming up in the era now where there's almost every day a death of someone in a band, tragically, either for whatever reason, but a lot of it is just natural causes. A lot of these guys just passing away. I never really recovered from Lemmy passing away or Dio. I know this sounds like sacrilege. Is 100% a whole generation of metalheads who never heard or saw Dio, but they know that Dio is important, and I'm not being ageist and saying like you're too much of a kid or whatever. Like, I don't do that, but I try not to gatekeep too bad. Obviously anybody that's got shitty taste in music or likes terrible music, I can't do anything with you or help you. You do you and have a good time with that, have a good life. But there's definitely a thing where if you don't support the next level of bands up and coming, who is the Metallica of tomorrow? Who is the next Slipknot? I don't know. I don't know who is the next Korn. I don't know if there will be one. I don't know if you'll ever see another band like Metallica or Slipknot actually get that big. Maybe. Ghost has impressed me. Gojira has impressed me that they can get as big as they've gotten. But, you just don't know. But in terms of underground, I'm still very excited and plugged into the underground, especially death metal, black metal, and doom metal, where I really see the growth and the expansion of the genres and the growth of the musical style is very exciting to me. I was just doing a podcast with my senior editor in the UK who runs my reviews team, Steve Tovey. Shout out to Steve. And we were talking about like the best releases of April and the ones we're excited about for May. And it's about half and half big name bands and totally mostly unknown or underground bands.
I want to back up here for a minute because you said you dig Sinatra a lot. What's your expectations on Mark Tremonti's Frank Sinatra album that's going to come out?
First of all, shout out to Mark, who could do anything, right? Alter Bridge, Creed, his solo Tremonti stuff. The guy's a genius, right? And he also loves he grew up on extreme death metal and Florida death metal and stuff and thrash metal. So he could do anything he wants to. And for him to use his celebrity to launch a foundation, obviously he's got a handicapped child. That's, the focus of why he created this thing, to raise awareness and money to help this foundation he's working with and created. So that's wonderful, right? First off, selfishly, that's an incredible and selfless thing. He could make another record of any kind and spend his time doing and money doing that. Then it turns out he's a huge fan of Sinatra and really studied Sinatra to be able to sing those songs, because like this is probably our parents' music or grandparents' music for some people out there.
Yeah.
But you know kind of what happens, especially in America, but in general, you know, music that takes on sort of popularity, a subgenre that becomes mad popular, becomes kind of the common music of the people. So for a long time, there was blues and folk music, and that was the only music, so everybody listened to it. Then there was big band and jazz and swing, and that was the main, most popular music, so everybody listened to it. And then rock and roll came along, and everybody listened to it. And then kind of ever since rock and roll, it's been rock and roll and pop, and hip-hop maybe is the newest major form of music. But there's all other kinds of subgenres, right? So I think Tremonti I've actually heard some of it, and it's amazing. And as a huge Sinatra fan and a big learned student of jazz, it's really well done. He got actually some of Frank Sinatra's musical collaborators who used to perform with him to play on the record too.
Oh, nice. That's so nice, man. Now, I know you mentioned that you played music too in several bands. Do you miss it, man? Does that itch kick you to want to go back up, or are you okay where you're at right now?
Once in a while, when I see a band playing live, especially in a small club, I miss it. I love making music and I love playing live and performing. But being in a band, much like running a small business like this, it's sometimes like a loveless marriage. It's rough.
Oh, yeah.
It can be rough. And, you know, obviously I like to refer to Ghost Cult as a gentle monarchy and not a dictatorship. But a band really has to be a democracy. You can't have, unless you just have one person in charge and it's their band and everybody's a hired gun. You see this all the time with bands and people quitting, and you're like, wow, I can't believe he quit, or whatever. You know, like the Deftones situation where, you know, Sergio was basically like a hired gun for 12, 13 years, and they never made him a full member with a full cut of their money. And that becomes a problem as you get to 50 whatever years old and you're thinking about the rest of your life. And it's like, where is my security? What if the band breaks up tomorrow? I'm left with nothing. And he played on all these records, and obviously he gets paid for the records he played on, and he's not asking for a handout, but he certainly came in and bailed them out when she first went down and then passed away. He stayed in the band all these years. He's a phenomenal performer. Obviously they'll go on without him. I just saw them with Gojira a couple of weeks back. But, you know, that's the thing. It's hard to be in a band. And so as much as I do miss music sometimes and making music, and there's always a chance one of my old bands is going to resurrect. I did put out a song on Bandcamp a couple of years ago. When they first started doing the Bandcamp Fridays, I remixed an old song of mine from one of my thrash bands and put it out. It's not great sounding, but it's fun that it's out there. And then my other band, Salted Wounds, you get to hear their riffs. It's the theme music for all my interviews, is one of our songs. So that's kind of a way where one of my bands still kind of lives.
How excited are you for Ghost Cult to be part of the Blastbeat network?
You know, it was definitely an interesting thing. They approached me. So for those that don't know, the Blastbeat Network is the advertising network created and run by originally the former owners of Metal Sucks and Metal Injection. I don't know if people are aware of this. Earlier this year, 3 of the 4 original founders of those 2 websites retired from being music journalists and sold the businesses, basically. So Blastbeat is now owned by a bigger company, also at a record label, and this is just a method to, you know, promote, ads and awareness. So I would tell you, for bands, if you're trying to get your spins on Spotify, you're trying to get your EP sold on Bandcamp, go look up Blastbeat. As a marketing expert, the nuts and bolts of it is one of the best, most valuable, best bang for your buck, and most efficient ways to promote your music. It's a lot more successful than Facebook ads, to be honest. It's basically called programmatic advertising, and I can get all nerdy about that right now, but that would bore everybody. But we got invited to join this cadre of other metal websites and music sites and rock sites, or like YouTubers like Rockfeed. This guy's got like 500,000 subscribers. It's insane. Yeah. We have battled to get to like 2,500. And as you can relate, it's a very slow growth. Even if you have like clickbait and the most sensational videos and you work really hard, it's still very slow growing. You might have like one big viral sensation. We have a handful of videos that have done very well, and everything else is pretty modest, So getting invited to Blastbeat, it was on the strength of our content, It doesn't mean that we're just like those other sites. It doesn't mean we post what they post. We post what we post. They don't interfere. And, you know, it was an honor. I really got to, I know those guys got a weird and bad rap from different groups of fans that don't like, you know, sort of the media and don't like the media's take on metal or goofing on metal or pointing out the absurd or picking on people they like. But I thought it was an honor to get asked to join. You know, it brings in a little bit of money. I wouldn't say we're making a fortune here. We're not. But, you know, it helps pay for hosting and it helps pay for gear sometimes. So I'll take it, man. I'll take anything anybody wants to do. Buy me a cup of coffee. Send me $1. I'll take it.
I know you had a lot of music growing up, and I know you still have a lot of music, man, to this day, like I do. But do you still have a go-to album or maybe just a song that you find yourself gravitating back to that you just cannot kick it out?
Oh, gosh. I mean, there's so many. My favorite band of all time is still Pink Floyd. I had a Pink Floyd tribute band at one point. It was one of my last bands I played in regularly. So I always will forever and always love Pink Floyd. Probably in terms of metal, it's Master of Puppets, man. I wasn't my first Metallica was Ride the Lightning. I heard the whole record, and it blew me away and changed my whole life. And then Master of Puppets I got when it came out in real time, as like it's out and I got it, and it just changed the game. I still think Master of Puppets is the best metal riff of all time. That first 33-second opening riff by Hetfield, that right hand of God coming down on those strings, bro. And, you know, there's others, you know, growing up in New York City, sort of in the dawn of sort of crossover. So you had like hardcore bands, thrash metal, East Coast thrash metal, you know, obviously Anthrax I love. People see my battle vest. Anthrax is my back patch. I'm from the Bronx, New York, where 2 members of Anthrax are from, Frank and Charlie. And, you know, I will always love them. Other bands like Prong, Helmet, people will hear me talk about ad nauseum about how much I love those bands, and, you know, probably a whole bunch of others that I'm probably forgetting right now. There's a Tool, a lot of post metal and death metal bands, a lot of post, you know, Neurosis and Sleep. I love a lot of doom metal. So, you know, all those bands, yeah, I'm never at a loss for something. And then sometimes I just need a complete break from anything heavy, and I will put on, like, you know, acoustic guitar music or flamenco or classical music. I also was raised with a lot of classical and opera too, so sometimes once in a blue moon I'll go reach for that too.
Keefy, I will have you back on here.
Let me say, again, it's really a rare and great opportunity to get to chat with anybody about what we do. Feel free to check us out at Ghost Cult Mag on most of the socials, YouTube. Our website is ghostcultmag.com. John, you rule. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Hey, before I let you go, would you care to do a promo for my show?
Anything you need. What's up, everybody? It's Keefy from ghostcultmag.com, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour. Please get out, check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link and our YouTube link, and please subscribe to the damn YouTube link, folks. Come on, it's just 2 seconds to click the subscribe button. That's it. And get out and check out Ghost Cult magazine. You won't be disappointed. Keep it with all your favorite interviews with your bands and everything. So, Keefy, man, thank you so much. I appreciate you for what you do as well, my man.
All right, John, have a great one. Take care.
You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.